Okay, we're gonna make it back over there and try to get the boat repaired. Oh, hello. I wondered what that did. That's what that does. This video is geared more towards people that are looking to add more playability to Dredge, or content creators that are looking to use Crowd Control, Pulsoid, and Dredge together. Timestamps are on the screen now if you're looking for a specific section of this video. This is more of an overview and not so much of a tutorial, although we are going to briefly go over setting some of this up. I'm going to add a little disclaimer here because I did live stream Dredge on the PlayStation 4 back in 2024, and some of my clips are from the PlayStation 4 version of the game. You will need the PC version of this game if you want this to work, unless of course you're just looking for a heart rate overlay. If you just want a heart rate overlay, you just need the Pulsoid overlay in a software like OBS and some way to get that gameplay footage underneath the overlay. I'm not gonna go into that side of things in this video because there are so many different ways to do this. If you know how to add a browser source, you got this, you're good. Dredge just happened to be the game that I picked. You do not have to use Dredge if you want to play games with Crowd Control and Pulsoid together. Any of the games on Crowd Control supported games list should also work with Pulsoid. If you're unfamiliar with Dredge and you're not sure if this is the game for you, don't worry, we're gonna go over why I picked this game briefly, and we're also going to go over what to expect from this game. Dredge is a horror game, and sometimes it's weirdly cozy. It has these picturesque wildlife encounters and some very beautiful environments. At times it's easy to forget that this game is a cosmic horror. And then you wind up getting jump scared by one of the random monster encounters if you have that option turned on. You can actually turn that off in the settings if you don't want the random encounters. If you're on edge from a previous monster encounter, you still can get jump scared. It could be the peaceful wildlife that jump scare you. I'm not gonna lie, the orcas jump scared me a lot. It is still a horror game and it does still have some darker themes that might not be suitable for everyone. I hear bubbling. Oh, shoot. Oh, no. Unless you're a speedrunner, this is a game that you're probably not going to play on repeat. It doesn't have a lot of replay value. You uncover the secrets, you get the story, and that's kind of it. There are 2 endings to the game. You can get both of these endings in the same playthrough. This is really nice for people that want to see everything there is to see in a game and just be done with it. I was one of the people that wanted to do a replay of this game. I purchased the DLCs and played them towards the end of my first playthrough. I thought that it would be fun to play them alongside the main storyline because it would be more challenging without some of the upgrades that you can get as you progress through the story. I planned on doing this playthrough on my own because, again, I'd already live streamed the game on Twitch and I figured that was that. I put a few shorts up on YouTube. I didn't think they were gonna go anywhere because I was new to YouTube, and they kind of took off. So I decided I was going to give the people what they wanted and I was gonna make a return to Dredge. I originally had planned to try Dredge on the iPad when it released for mobile devices earlier this year, and do some videos on the iPad version just to keep things fresh. Unfortunately for me, this was around the same time my iPad, which I'd only had for a few months, decided that the screen was going to just not work anymore. While I was waiting for the replacement, I was trying to think of other things to do to shake up Dredge for a replay because I had just completed the game and I didn't want to burn out on a second playthrough. I already knew a little bit about Pulsoid, but I hadn't used it yet and I figured that might make an interesting addition to the videos. I got the new iPad and it was just still not quite what I was looking for yet, like the idea wasn't there yet. So I put it on the back burner and I started focusing on my Twitch streams. I'd just gotten my first actual gaming PC and that opened up a bunch of new things that I could do for streams, including crowd control. I went to set up crowd control, and I noticed that Dredge was on the list of compatible games. This was the thing that I was looking for. So I started setting up Pulsoid and Crowd Control, and while I was setting up Pulsoid, I noticed that it actually works with Crowd Control. Alright, let's talk about the setup. So first things first, I already mentioned that if you want to use Crowd Control, you need a PC version of the game. Obviously, if you're going to have a PC version of the game, you need a PC that can handle running the game and any other software you plan to run alongside it. I do recommend playing with at least 2 monitors, but that's not necessary. If you want to use Pulsoid, you're going to need a mobile device, such as a phone or a tablet, and you're going to need some kind of heart rate monitor. We're going to talk more about the heart rate monitors a little bit later. I want to point out that I do not know if you can use Pulsoid at the same time as VTube Studio if you use VTube Studio on your mobile device. I personally use 2 different devices. I used an iPhone for VTube Studio and my iPad for Pulsoid. This could vary based off of what kind of device you have and what kind of settings you have your device set to. So I didn't even want to test it out because I'm not prepared to help anybody troubleshoot that. It could work, it could not work. I don't really know. But just be aware that if you use VTube Studio on your mobile device and you want to use Pulsoid, there's a chance that you could wind up needing to pick up a cheap webcam or something. This could be worth it for you, especially if you like the integrations that Pulsoid has with VTube Studio that we're going to talk about a little bit later. So keep that in mind. I also used a DualShock controller with my setup. This isn't necessary, but I want to point out that you might want to double check your settings before you start playing. I did not, and I didn't realize that to back out of menus, it was set to push up on the joystick. That made navigating menus really hard for me. It's not set up the same way it is on consoles. So let's talk about why Crowd Control adds more playability to Dredge. With Dredge specifically, again, it doesn't have a lot of replay value. Crowd Control allows people, or Pulsoid depending on your circumstances, to run in-game actions. Whoa! Oh, there we go. Okay. We're gonna use this to our advantage. Heck yeah! Woo! Crowd Control can add some variation. It can add variation with things that happen in the game and just make them occur at times when they normally wouldn't occur, or it can add new things to the game entirely. The giant waves on screen are not something that you will be finding in vanilla Dredge, but they do occur if somebody activates them or if Pulsoid activates them if you're running Crowd Control. Some of the events may make the game a little bit more difficult or unpredictable, and some of the events may make things a little bit easier on you in the long run, depending on how you have things set up and what people redeem. Hello, what are you? Ah, these are the squid we needed. Oh, and lumber! Thank you. That'll be good. We're gonna need that. No, because I'd upgraded everything as far as I possibly could. Oh, thank you for the money. I've still got the panic marks on my face, and that's actually after I raised the heart rate allowance. Oh, here we go. Woo! Okay, let's not crash into the thing. There we go. We got it. Thank you. You do not need to be live, and you do not have to have other people adding input for Crowd Control to shake up your game if you're using Pulsoid. Pulsoid can have your heart rate be what triggers certain inputs. You're going to have to put that in yourself, so there's not going to be as much variety, but once you have it all set up, you can have certain things happen, like if your heart rate hits a certain point and stays there for long enough, you can take damage. Ooh, that's bad. If you go to Pulsoid's website and make an account, you can see all the different widgets that are available. Some are free, some are paid. Some of them you can change for free, some of them you have to pay to change. But then you just grab that little URL and stick it in your software to add the overlay. On Pulsoid's website, you can also find a page to walk you through how to set up Pulsoid and Crowd Control integration, how to set up the VTube Studio plugin and where to find the plugin, and how to set up Mix It Up and Pulsoid. Mix It Up is if you want to like have a message sent to your chat, you can integrate it that way. I'm not going over that in this video. Both the app and the website have a list of compatible heart rate monitors. This is not all of them, this is just a snapshot of them, and that's the one that I have right there. There are some that are armbands as well. You also may be able to test this out if you have a smartwatch. Not all of them are going to be compatible and they're not recommended, but you can test it. Then you're going to need to get on your mobile device and go and get the Pulsoid app on the App Store and open it up and log in using the same account you logged in on their website and connect your heart rate monitor. Next, we're going to go on to set up Crowd Control. For Crowd Control, you're going to need to go to Crowd Control's website. You're going to need to download it. And before you download it, if you want to, you can look and see what supported games there are, and also go ahead and click on any one of those if you want to see a list of the actions that Crowd Control can use for each one of those games. Next, we're going to look at setting up Pulsoid with Crowd Control. Once the app is downloaded, go into the Integrations tab. There is a spot there where it will walk you through how to connect to Pulsoid. Make sure that it is switched to on. And then you're going to go back over and find the game that you want to use. In this case, we're going to be using Dredge. It'll have a little checklist over on the side to tell you what you need to do to get ready to actually use the game with Crowd Control. If you have a spot where you're stuck, it can help you figure out what else needs to be done. You can also launch the game from here. But we're going to go over to the Effect Manager. The Effect Manager is where you can go to the Pulsoid tab and you can add or change the effects that Pulsoid will toggle on and off with your heart rate. You can still toggle these on and off while the game is running manually as well. This is how you determine what BPM the effect is going to trigger at, for how long it needs to stay above or below that BPM to trigger the effect, and what the cooldown rate is going to be. This is one that I set up previously and did use in the clips that you have seen throughout this video. And then I'll show you the process of creating a new Pulsoid trigger. So as you can see here, we don't have an effect set up yet. You're going to need to choose an effect. And you're going to need to choose how that effect gets triggered. So for this one, I put give me $10 when my heart rate would fall below a BPM of 70 for at least 60 seconds. And then I changed the cooldown rate, so it was going to be quite a while before the effect would trigger again if I stayed below 70 BPM for longer than a few seconds. You can also delete actions fairly easily if you decide that you really hate one that you set up and just want to start one from scratch, or just want to get rid of it. I want to point out that you can do all of this on the free version of Crowd Control at the time of recording this video. I don't know if that's going to change. I'm not sponsored in any way, shape, or form. I'm not even monetized at the time of posting this. I just wanted to show other people how they could get more out of their games or more out of their streams. Once the game has been launched, Crowd Control starts to look a little bit different. And so we're going to launch the game and I'm going to show you how it looks a little bit different. After the game opens up, you are going to see a Start Session button. Clicking that will show you some examples of what it would look like if somebody redeemed an effect, and it also has a little list of all of the effects over on the side. You can test the effects from that side panel over there. If you're going to be streaming and people can potentially pay money to you, I highly recommend that you test a few of these effects so you know what they do and know if they worked correctly. I'll show you why that's important. Okay, so there should be a lot of different things that you can do in Crowd Control, including spawn monsters, change the time, damage the boat, and quite a few other things. Some of those are going to cost quite a bit of money, but my heart rate should do some of that for us, as you can hear in the background. Oh, it really It really activates the horn, doesn't it? Okay, that's gonna get interesting really, really fast. This is actually from the very beginning of my first crowd control stream, where my husband and I were testing to make sure that crowd control was working properly and showing up properly for the viewers so they could access the crowd control menu on Twitch. Okay. It should just queue items if you do this while I'm fishing. I wound up turning off the horn for at least Pulsoid because it lasted a lot longer than I thought it would, and it was getting kind of annoying. I might have to set a longer delay on the ones that Pulsoid is controlling. Right here, my husband changed the whole color to yellow, and he thought it didn't work. And there's a reason why he thought it didn't work. Right here, you can see that it is in fact yellow, but as soon as you go into the shade, it doesn't look yellow anymore. So he thought it just didn't work, and I thought it didn't work until I was looking back at the recording later. There can be real money that gets spent on crowd control. There are free coins, and there are coins that people can pay for to use these effects. If you are going to have paid effects, please make sure that you know what some of these do. So then if it is a more subtle change, you can let people know, hey, look, this actually did work. If people think that they paid money for something to happen and then it looked like nothing happened, they might get disappointed and be less incentivized to do it again. And that's not what you want if you're hoping to add this as an incentive for people to help give you a little bit more cash. Luckily, in this instance, it was just my husband running tests for me to make sure things were working, and he was just using the free coins that were available. Down in this bottom corner, you can see that there is a little heart and a 0 next to it. That is because I did not have Pulsoid up and running when I was filming this part. I do start that up here in just a moment. Let me cut to that really quick. If Pulsoid is hooked up and working correctly, it should display your heart rate right there like it is right now. I did want to test to make sure that you could play the game without being live and still have Pulsoid trigger effects. So I went ahead and I jogged in place to get my heart rate up just to test this for the sake of the video. It did take a minute for my heart rate to get up high enough to actually trigger any of the events, but once I got there, it did trigger them in crowd control like it was supposed to, and it did work in the game as well, even though I was not live. Up next, we are going to briefly look at the VTuber Studio heart rate plugin that you can find on Pulsoid's website. This is actually a screenshot from Pulsoid's website where you can go and find a comprehensive setup guide and also the plugin. I unfortunately can't link you there because I'm not monetized yet, so I can't put links in the description, but we can look at the different things that it can do so you can decide if this is something that's worth your time and energy to attempt to set up. As you may have noticed, my little VTuber model down in the corner has been cycling between several different expression toggles. These toggles have been getting triggered by my heart rate using Pulsoid. We're going to talk briefly about the different things that this plugin can do. Again, I'm not going to show you how to set it up necessarily, but there are several different things that you can do. I was using the one that would activate the toggles. There is one for the art meshes. If you are going to change anything with the art mesh, please make sure your model artist is okay with it. Not all artists are okay with you changing anything about any of the art meshes, including just the color. This is what the plugin looks like. It will automatically create a profile for each of the models that you have it opened up to. You can also create alternate profiles for each one of these. So if you want to have one for horror games and one for non-horror games, you can do that. And then we are going to go on over to the outputs menu. In the outputs menu, you are going to see that big green plus button. If you hit that button, it will allow you to pick what kind of output you want. I hit hotkey trigger, and then I picked a hotkey that I wanted it to trigger. I have it set to trigger above and trigger below. So when it reaches 100, it will turn the hotkey on. And then when it drops back down below 100, it will turn the hotkey back off. I do have a command to toggle on and off each one of these hotkeys because when I go to switch models, it will sometimes leave the very last toggles that were on still on the model, and that can mean that the toggles are triggered inverted of what they're supposed to be. So I do recommend having a way to turn those on and off manually elsewhere as well. If you decide that you don't like one of those outputs, you can delete them from that same menu. I did mention switching models, so we're going to talk about that because I have a channel point redeem on Twitch so people can switch out my VTuber model. That's a whole different video. As I switch out the model, it will automatically switch over to the correct profile for that model. At least for the one that I have set as the default for that model as well. I didn't have this one pop up in any of the videos from that stream because nobody hit the redeem button. That actually worked out okay because this model has much more subtle expressions than the other model. But to show you, you can also go over and test the input levels and make sure that things are working correctly. So if you select the input method and get the test slider, you can watch what happens when your heart rate hits certain points. The toggles will just stay turned on if you close out of the plugin, so this is another reason why you're going to want to have a manual way to hit those toggles. This is what it looks like in action. Oh, there's something after me. I don't have banish. I can't run. We're gonna be okay though. We're really close to the harbor. We're gonna make it. I know what it is that's after us. That is the boat thing that's chasing us. I do recommend making adjustments to your heart rate settings right before you plan to play. I set mine up the day before, and when I went to stream, my heart rate was higher than it had been the day before. I don't know if it's because my heart rate was actually higher, or if there was something that made it not read quite as well on one of the days. You can make adjustments as you go. I did adjust some of the crowd control settings in the middle of stream. One of them was because the horn was going off for longer than I thought it would and it was getting kind of annoying. And the other one that I made was because, again, my heart rate was reading a lot higher that day, and so it was setting things off constantly, so I bumped everything up just a few BPM. I should have also gone in and fixed some things in the crowd control overlay. The crowd control overlay was overlapping with other things that I had on the screen. I know that looks like there's a blank spot in the middle, but you can't put things in the middle, and I actually had some other stuff there that I covered up for the sake of this video. And then there was also the issue of crowd control didn't really give me a way to tell when somebody had redeemed something on the game screen itself, and there wasn't a sound effect that would go off to tell me that somebody had redeemed something. You can put one in, and I do recommend doing that. As a VTuber, I really did like how much more expressive using Pulsoid made my model. It's really hard to remember to use the toggles or authentically use the toggles in the heat of the moment. I'm a VTuber due to poor health because my appearance changes really rapidly and it makes people worried about me, so sometimes it's really frustrating when I can't portray expressions the way I feel like I want to. This kind of helped bridge that gap where I felt like I wasn't being as expressive as I wanted to be. Overall, this was a ton of fun. It was well received by my viewers on Twitch. The combination of crowd control and Pulsoid added more surprises in the game, and it made it more interesting for a replay. I hope you got something useful from this video. Thank you for watching, and happy gaming!